What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free and an unboxing of a new movie coming to Synapse Films called Tombs of the Blind Dead.
It's party time, yeah!
¿Qué es lo que te trajo hasta acá?
These evil people have just got to be stopped.
It's Voidtober! Now, for you young bucks out there, you may never heard of this film, but I'm sure you've heard of the movie Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is essentially what sparked a lot of zombie films all over the world. And most people consider Italians to have kind of taken the mantle of George Romero and John Russo and taken off with it. But in actuality, it was Spanish. This is Armando de Osorio's Tombs of the Blind Dead, and it's just coming out to Synapse Films, who gave it the treatment. There is a couple of things about it that I wanted to explain to you in case you have another version out there, but we'll get into those extras later. I'm just going to pretty much explain the movie and give my review of it first. So buckle up, let's get into it. So Tombs of the Blind Dead is a particular type of zombie film. Now, it deals specifically with a bunch of Templars of the Christian order. These are kind of bastard versions of those. These are the satanic versions of them. They will slice open virgins and drink their blood, and in doing so, basically give themselves eternal life. In this version of the Templar Knights, you'll notice something that is a common occurrence in here, is that they carry the emblem of an Ankh, which is eternal life. And that is very different from the order, any kind of Christian order that was back with the Templar Knights back then. Now, the director, Armando de Osorio, has never really outright said, oh, I did this because of George Romero and John Russo's Night of the Living Dead, but there are a lot of similarities in it that it is not a very happy ending, and a lot of people kind of associate this movie together with it. These are not like your regular dead. These are the Templar Knights, like I mentioned, that are coming to life out of the graves like skeletons. And the sort of shtick or the gimmick here for these particular ones is that when they died, they had their eyes pecked out by crows. And those crows that took their eyes, now in their afterlife, when they come out to kill, they're basically going to be blind. So they use their hearing in order to hear you. Of course, when a couple of people stumble upon this old place, they resurrect the dead, and of course they ends up pretty poorly for just about everyone involved. But yeah, this is a very gothic film that is not for everybody. You know, like, I could see a lot of younger generation that may or may not like it, often probably not, just because these are slower paced zombies in robes with skeleton hands that come after you. More of like a impending doom of the old variety with Night of the Living Dead with slow zombies, you know? It's more of like an inevitability, because there are, in Night of the Living Dead, of course, there are a lot of people that say that this is sort of a nod towards, you know, race and all these other things. A lot of it just kind of fell into place if you hear the story about it, but there are some similarities that the Tombs of the Blind Dead actually have in their film, and that is that at the time they were under a dictatorship when this movie came out, and as some of you know, and many of you horror fans know, that horror has always been steeped in some sort of political messaging. A lot of times, a lot of people think, don't put fucking politics in my horror. Well, it's always been there, buddy. In fact, oftentimes that's the only way people have a voice. Francisco Franco, who was at the time a dictator running the country, and, you know, this was their way of kind of using that as a symbolism to express their tyranny on the people. Now, there's, you know, other messaging in there that a lot of people have theorized about, but this is one of those movies that actually is a big part of the horror franchise in zombies in general, because one, it's very unique, and two, they do something different in here with the whole audible thing. Like, you can't really get away from them, because eventually you find out that, you know, and this isn't really that much of a spoiler, but the zombie can hear your heartbeat. So, which sucks. It's like, fuck, I thought I could get away from him. But yeah, these are just very cool looking zombies. Now, this is a series. This is the first of a series. I actually have the entire set here that I got on DVD that I had to buy because at the time it was like going up in price, and I was like, oh man, I gotta get this. I think now it's like $150 to $200, unopened, probably like $250 or something like that. But yeah, it comes with all of the titles in here. You can kind of see Tombs of the Blind Dead, starting with that in 72, Return of the Evil Dead, The Ghost Galleon, or Horror of the Zombies, and then we got Night of the Seagulls. All of them are a little bit different, and they changed the lore in some of them a little bit each time. It mostly sticks to the idea that they're blind, and that's why they call it the Blind Dead Collection. Now, a fun little fact is that in America, the Tombs of the Blind Dead would be called just the Blind Dead. And also, there was a couple of distributors, or at least one, that wanted to call it Revenge of Planet Ape, because get this, and this is in the extras, by the way, that you'll find out when you get this disc. Planet of the Apes was huge in the 70s, and they kind of wanted to turn this movie that's nothing about apes into a movie about Revenge of Planet Ape, where there's these apes that come from another planet, they burn out their eyes, and then they exact revenge on the human beings, which is ridiculous. They even have the trailer for the beginning of that intro for that distribution version, which is just awesome. I really enjoyed watching this. This is not a, this is going to be a slow burner for some people. It is more of an aesthetic thing, and not everybody likes these particular type of zombies, but I find them to be pretty interesting and cool. Like, I just like the idea that these skeleton people are coming after you, and not in like a silly way, but obviously it is a little silly, but it's not done in a way like Army of Darkness or anything like that. There is some extra blood and gore, and this version even has the hybrid Spanish and English version, which is the uncut version, of course. It's in 1661 presentation, so it just trims in the sides just a little bit, but fills up the screen nonetheless. There's a lot of extra scenes in this movie that were cut out from like the German UK version as well as the United States version that had a lot of sex scenes that really kind of fill in the gaps with the story, because the story in this is, it's not exactly the strongest story, but some of the characters in it, they do have a lot more backstory. There is a particular sexual assault scene in one of these that is pretty violent. It's like one of those 70s machismo sort of moments. Even one of the actresses who was in this movie talks about that scene in particular. But this movie did some things in it in the Spanish times that were ahead of its time. They deal with like different types of sexuality, and there's a bunch of stuff in here that you wouldn't normally see or think a movie from the 70s would have in it. And being that this is the 1972 movie, this is one of the first zombie films to actually come out before everywhere else came out with a zombie film, before Fulci, before all these other places. And it doesn't get the amount of credit, Spain that is, doesn't get the amount of credit that it deserves for having an entire series about zombies long before even George Romero did his second one. So interesting, right? A lot of extras and stuff that I really enjoyed in here. Again, this is not going to be for everybody. I personally would say, there's something aesthetically really pleasing about it. And I also love the blood color in the 70s blood. It's just amazing. Probably give it like a 7 out of 10 for me, but most people consider this a classic. If you've grown up through this era, this is one of the classic films for Spain, and the entire series is good. I personally am a little more fond of the sillier ones, which is like the Ghost Galleon, but I really want to rewatch all of these, and as well as this looked on the screen, it was almost like watching 4K in some ways from the versions I have, which aren't bad. It just looks so crisp. But yeah, I'm going to go over the extras now with you. Are you a fan of this? Have you seen these? Have you ever watched any of these? These are very different. Spain has a long history of different types of horror with like Paul Naschy, but this is the one that really kind of did something a little bit different for the times after the Night of the Living Dead. So there's history to this, and it is dreadful and bleak and gothic as fuck. But Synapse put this one out. I'm going to get into all the details on this one right now for you so that you know exactly what to expect. So obviously we get the cover here. This is the special 2-disc Blu-ray edition. This is not the steelbook cover that they have. There's another steelbook cover that they put out. I think that might have sold out. This is just the standard special edition 2-disc Blu-ray edition. And as I mentioned, you have two different versions in here. You get your booklet, your Synapse Films booklet that's got all their films in it. You also have Tombs of the Blind Dead US theatrical version, and then there's the original Spanish hybrid versions. So there's one that's just Spanish, and then there's one that's like Spanish and English that they mix in there together. There is no extra sleeve. It is just the original there. And some of the extras that you're going to get in here are the Blu-ray presentation of the original uncut version, lossless Spanish PCM 2.0 mono soundtrack. We got the lossless hybrid, which is the English Spanish version, which is in 2.0 mono, the PCM. And we also have English subtitles for the Spanish track, optional English subtitles for the Spanish sections of the hybrid soundtrack, which got a little confusing because I jumped ahead and thought I could fix it. And then I had to like go back to the main menu to try to figure it out because I got a little confused. Optional English titles for the deaf and hard of hearing as well in this. The audio commentary with horror film historian author Troy Howarth, who I listened to actually talk about it. He's like really detailed about this movie, but he even says, you know, I'll leave some of the commentary for some of the other guys, you know, because there's 3 commentaries on here. But his was really interesting to listen to. I listened to about half of that. I didn't catch the other ones, but it taught me a lot about the film itself in a very technical aspect. We also get the audio commentary with star Lone Fleming in this, audio commentary with Rod Barnett and Troy Ginn of the Nashi Cast podcast, which, you know, obviously Nashi was very popular in Spain. Well, not from the companies, but he was kind of a outlier in horror because horror was not, you know, it was frowned upon in a lot of places, but not as bad as in America where they can change the name to Revenge of the Planet Ape. As I mentioned, you'll get the intro of the movie with that version in there. It's not like cleaned up or anything like that. It's just the raw footage. You also get Marauders from the Mediterranean, which is a feature-length documentary exploring the history of the Spanish zombie film, which they go into great detail about how the influence from America and George Romero and John Russo were very impactful on the whole thing. They even have interviews with John Russo about the whole thing. So it's a pretty good, I think it's like an hour or so long. It's really good. We also get An Awakening of Spanish Horror Cinema, which is a featurette. There is Salem's Pop, which they did a song called Templar's Tears with a music video with some of the footage of the movie in there. And we get the original theatrical trailer plus the stills gallery. Now, that's all on the hybrid version, so there's 2 discs. The US theatrical version, which has all the like sex and a little bit of gore cut out. A lot of dialogue too, by the way, but all the sex and dialogue are cut down in the US version. I honestly prefer the Spanish hybrid version, which is a little hard to get used to at first, but you'll pick it up. It's not as frequent as it seems. But the US theatrical version is it's just that cut in lossless PCM 2.0 mono, and it has the optional English subtitles in there as well. But yeah, overall, I wish there was a little bit more newer stuff in this release. I think it looks really good. It is in all regions, so it is for any region that you want to play your Blu-ray on, so no worries about that. I really enjoyed it. It's nice to watch this again. It definitely makes me want to go down and watch all of these again. And something that I found out for those of you that have both of these, at least the standard version like I have here, inside of this box, and I'll show you a little editing here, it fits kind of right in there. Like there's so much space in this that now I can just kind of stick it inside here and it still fits perfectly. So, which is kind of great because I could just put it up there on my shelf. But yeah, thank you MVD for sending this out to me. I really appreciate it. Synapse Films as well. Thank you for putting out a great product. I really enjoy checking out their feature films that they put out because, you know, often I've bought from them for many, many years, including the Demon stuff and all kinds of stuff. But overall, I'm pretty pleased. I wasn't blown away with this release, but I think if you don't have it on Blu-ray and you are a fan of this series, I would highly recommend getting it. You can get it at All the stores down below include Synapse, MVD Entertainment, Diabolic DVD, and even Amazon if you want. So pick and choose whatever works for you if you want to do a copy of this. But thanks again, everybody, for sending this out to me. I hope you enjoyed that review and a little bit of history on the movie. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have you enjoyed all of these? Which out of the entire series is your favorite? I think, honestly, mine is the Ghost Galleon. It's the one I just keep going back to, which is just a lot of fun. So, you know, maybe I'll go down the line with these later on, either on the podcast or on here. If we can get the likes up to about 110, I'll do all of these on YouTube. So there we go. But thanks, guys, so much for all the support. And as always, long live the void.